Welcome in everyone. Welcome to Sunday's live. Today is the 26th of November. Happy Thanksgiving for all of those here in the United States. We do celebrate Thanksgiving. It's a day that we usually dedicate to give thanks for things we're grateful for. And I mean, mostly it's just enjoy some family time and eat some really good food together and play some football as well. Not a big fan of sports. Used to play sports when I was younger, but watching sports kind of bores me, so not a big fan of that. Anyways, let's get right into it. We're gonna go over Nas. This week was pretty wild. I stayed out of this entire trading week due to the fact that it was gonna be my first actual week trading during Thanksgiving. I would usually just monitor when it's days that I'm not comfortable with. So I was not in the market actively trading, but I was watching the market and observing to see like how everything would play out. You see Thursday, exactly how I expected. It's going to be a lower volatility day, which you can see right over here. Try to stay out of that. And now it looks like we're actually forming a nice little reversal here on the daily chart. Once this candle closes, and it closes with this nice little X brought to you by EZAlgo, then we can confirm that it's a reversal there, and then we should start looking for some bearish position shorts on the way as well. We're gonna look at the daily levels right now, right? So we have this huge fair value gap over here that was left over, right? Previous daily order block. This one's got smashed right through, blasted right through that. So this should, in theory, become an area of support. So since it was not a positive area of resistance, now we're looking at this area over here as kind of like a support for us. So in theory, since we have this fair value gap over here, mind you, my strategy might differ from yours. What I usually do is I look for entries inside order blocks. I look for entries inside fair value gaps. Pretty much left over as an imbalance after a massive displacement, one way or the other, whether it be bullish, whether it be bearish. So I'm looking for fair value gaps. I'm looking for order blocks. This is an order block over here. That's a daily order block that's been blasted through. So now it becomes a nice little added confluence, and I'm expecting it to just go into this area. Now this is demand area. Get some liquidity there, get some fuel, and then continue upwards momentum, right? So I'm gonna use this right now as a confluence, right? So I'm gonna color this blue. I'm also going to highlight the 50% area over here in this fair value gap. This is a daily fair value gap that we're looking at right now. It's the closest one as well. We do have a couple others down here. We were expecting it to actually pull back and hit into those, but Nas has been so powerful, so bullish, that it has not even had an opportunity to come back. It's crazy. I've been looking for retracements. I've been looking for pullbacks to get into this, but it just continues going and going and going. And it's freaking wild for me. So we're gonna mark this area over here, right? 50% mark is gonna be right over here. 50% mark, we're looking at about 15,638.69. So let's say 15,640. We're gonna do Alt H, mark that as my 50% daily fair value gap. Right over here. Daily FEG 50%. Let me make this actually caps. It looks weird like that for me. Daily fair value got 50%. Coordinates for that, we're going to modify the coordinates. We're going to say about 15,640 just to even it out. And I'm going to color it blue. I'm looking for bullish positions on there. Cool thing about it too is that order block, if you already saw it from last week's live, this order block's already created. I created that for you guys. It looks like it's right above the order block as well in the 50% daily fair value gap, which gives me a nice little added confluence as a demand zone. So now we're playing two different things. We're pretty much doing like retail concepts, supply and demand, and we're pretty much doing ICT concepts by focusing on this fair value gap left over after this displacement. This right here is going to be a nice high quality area of confluence. So make sure to mark it down. I'm going to also give you guys the coordinates for the start and the closing, the top and the bottom of this fair value gap over here. Top is 15,735.68. The bottom is 15,541.59. and we're focusing in on that area, 15,640, right, as a point of interest, as our area of entry. This entire area here is a point of interest due to the fact that the order block is overlapping with this fair value gap, and it looks like it's going to be a nice little demand zone. So we should definitely see some kind of movement, some kind of reaction in this area here, right? This is the closest area that we have on the daily. We're going to zoom in now on the 4 hour, see if there's any added confluences inside there as well. We're looking in here, and it's about the same thing. Yeah, 4 hour and the daily, exact same fair value gap, and the exact same 50% mark as well. That's in the 4 hour. Let's mark it there too. Let's make sure we label it. Get into the habit of doing proper labels for your pretty much everything that you do on the charts. So when something does happen, or when an alert actually comes up on your charts, you're able to react. This is one thing that I need to do, get better at. It's one of the things that I am improving on a weekly basis with you guys here on the live. Making sure I mark everything out right. Making sure I mark everything out clear. Once those alerts hit, once the alerts start hitting, I know what to do, right? So this is the daily. This is also a 4 hour fair value gap, 50%. Identical. Where else do we see? We see right now we're playing inside this fair value gap. You have 2 hours and 44 minutes for this to close. If this candle closes below the 50%, I mean, it's already mitigated because it's tapped into it, it hasn't really rejected off. First one over here did tap into it and rejected off like that, reacted to it. This one continued, it's closing in it. Once it closes in it, pretty much negated, it's mitigated. And this is pretty much void. This one too, this one's been tapped into. Look at those wicks, tapped into it, rejected, tapped into it, rejected, continued up. These two are pretty much voided. Let me clear these up a little bit more for you guys. This beautiful fair value gap over here, we're gonna mark it out. We're looking at the 4 hour. Color blue for bullish. We're gonna look for a nice little entry into there. Have a nice little demand here. Guys, the indicators that I'm using are EZAlgo V10. I'm also using EZAlgo SMC. Both of these available on my link down below inside my description. This is going to be uploaded on YouTube with all the links for my affiliates, and that way you guys can actually tap into and get this indicator. Now you guys here inside the live, you guys can see this live, and you guys already have the indicator, so thank you for that. Right here in the fair value gap, we're going to mark out the beginning and the end. Beginning of it is 15834.54. The bottom of it is going to be 15808.77. This is a nice little 4 hour. Alt H, center of it is 15822. That's going to be our 50%. Let's label that as well. This is a 4 hour fair value gap, 50%. This is a point of interest. We're going to be looking into this for reversals. And we are still bullish as long as it rejects off that. If it breaks through and closes, then our next point of interest is going to be over here, the daily and the 4 hour fair value gap, 50%. If not, this should, in theory, touch this. You also have an order block right underneath it. Nice little added confluence, and reject it up, right? Come down, hit into this area, tap into this 50%, tap into about the top of the order block. This is going to be a beautiful confluence right here as well. The beginning of this order block and the ending of this fair value gap. In theory, should wick into that, bounce right back up for a nice RR, right? Nice risk to reward for you guys. Let's go down to 1 hour. Let's check it out. Let's see if there's any additional confluences for us. Fair value gap over here has been mitigated. This is closing in it as well. 41 minutes for this candle to close. It's going to close underneath this fair value gap. You have another tiny little fair value gap over here, but it's way too small to see. I mean, that's a fair value gap after a market structure shift, right? Maybe you guys can scalp it. If you guys are scalpers, you can probably tap into that, but looks like we already tapped into it. Market's moving a little bit quickly tonight, right? So we were gotten into this probably like 10 minutes ago. For the scalpers out there, you probably could have scalped it a little bit. Tapped into it over here in the 50% mark. But even so, if you would have done it right underneath the fair value gap, nah. So yeah, let's skip this one. It's been mitigated. Candle's way too massive. You would have to do a stop loss down here, entry here, and then 2 to 1. Not a really good risk to reward right there. Not a really good stop loss either. It's way too big of a stop loss. We're gonna ignore that one. Fair value gap over here has been mitigated. Bottom over here has been mitigated. We're looking into this area over here. It's an order block. This might actually blast through it. There's nothing else as a confluence. We're going to be looking at the next fair value gap over here on the 1 hour. Market structure shift followed by fair value gap. This should be a beautiful area of confluence. Tapped into it 3 times, rejected, continued up. Right? If you were watching the charts, you would have seen that we had this leveled out. And then this... No, actually we did not. We were on Sunday. So this one actually occurred at the opening on Monday. Tapped into over here on Tuesday. Continuation upward. That would have been a beautiful play right there if you did 2 to 1 RR. Nothing else really on the way until this 4-hour fair value gap. 4-hour fair value gap and the 1-hour fair value gap pretty much overlapping. You have 2 different fair value gaps over here on the 1 hour. You have market structure shift over here as well. Let's mark this one as well. You have 4-hour and also 1-hour fair value gap. That's your confidence right there. 2 different fair value gaps, 2 different time frames, 4-hour, 1 hour. You also have this fair value gap over here. I'm gonna label these 2. You guys already got the coordinates from the first one. We're gonna get the coordinates from the second one right now as well. We're looking at 15806.93. The bottom of that is 15793.91. That's what we're looking at for the second fair value gap. Let's shoot this 50%. 50%, you're looking at 15800 flat. That looks beautiful. That's nice. That's a nice number. That's a nice round bank number. Let's shoot some fibs as well. Casper fibs. The pullback. Alright guys, I'm gonna give you guys my fibs as well. Take a screenshot right over here. The numbers that I use are 0, 0.62, 0.705, 0.79, and negative 0.27. This is your take profit. This is the base that you're drawing from, the 0. And then, yeah, pretty much the 0 is going to be where you draw it to. So you start off with your start off point. 0 is where your pullback is at. Pretty much I use the fibs for as an added confluence when it comes to, you know, entries. If your fibs, if any of your fibs overlap with your fair value gaps, right, it's usually a beautiful confluence for an entry. So as you can see right here, my 4-hour, 1-hour fair value gap at 50% are overlapping with my 0.62, almost identical to it, just a couple pips difference, right? Instead of being at 822, it's at 819, and that's fine. It's close enough for this area to be a beautiful confluence. Within these 2 fair value gaps, you also have my other 2 fibs, which are 0.705 and 0.79. Both of those are inside the 2 different fair value gaps. So all 3 of these are nice, valid, added confluences as entries. How I would play this is I would do a DCA. If I'm doing max, let's say 50%, then probably do like 0.20%, bring it up to 0.6%, right? 20% here, 0.20, 0.20, and 0.20. If you're doing 1%, then just do 0.33, 0.33, 0.33, or even just break it down to 2, right? Get a higher risk to reward, 0.705 and then 0.79. Do those 2 as a DCA. It really falls down to you, right? How your strategy is, how your risk management is, but please don't over risk it, don't over leverage it, don't try to risk your daily balance. If you're using prop firms, don't try to use, you know, 50% of your capital. If you're using, you know, your own personal life funds, just be very weary with that, right? Try not to risk more than 2% per daily. And if you take a loss for the day, try to step away from the charts. If you take one loss, don't pretty much just finish for the day. If you take a win, don't take more than 2 wins a day. Try not to do more than 2 trades a day. Just proper risk management. If you have a risk management that works good for you, stick with it. But these are just, you know, little tips along the way that have helped me a lot as well. Pretty much like what's made me more profitable now than before. It's just proper risk management, because you can make a ton in a day and then blow it all the next day because you have no risk management, and then overall you're just not going to be profitable. So we have the fibs overlap over here, 0.62, 705 and 0.79. I'm definitely going to be watching this area over here. This area is going to be my biggest area of interest for now in the immediate future. It might actually go into this area. Where are we at right now? Probably by tomorrow, honestly. A couple more hours and we should be seeing some kind of reaction in these areas. Probably inside the London session, we should see some kind of reaction to that. I will, right now, I'm gonna set an alert, right? Let's set an alert over here on the 4-hour and the 1-hour fair value gap 50%. I'm gonna set an alert on that. We're also gonna be setting an alert on this bad boy over here, the 15,800. That's our other 50% fair value gap. We're also gonna label that as well, right? So we know what we're working with. It's gonna be 1-hour fair value gap 50%. And then play it as you will, right? How I would play this is I would take an entry here at this double time frame confluence, and then I'll also take another entry over here at the 0.79. My stop loss will be just below this over here, my swing low here, and if it goes below that, then it's just invalidated it. And then the next thing we're going to be looking at, it's going to be over here, 15,640, right? So we've identified daily, we've identified 4-hour, we've identified the 1-hour. Let's check out the 15, right? 15 is just to see any other added confluences for us. This fair value gap over here on the left has been mitigated. This is yet to be mitigated. It's on the way there. Structure looks pretty good. Tapped into over here, took liquidity, right? We broke over a significant level, which is 16,000. 16,000 flat right over here. Broke through that level, hung out a little bit above it. Cannot really break through this previous higher high. And now it looks like we're on a downtrend. It looks pretty good as well. Daily open with a gap. Right over here. That's with the daily open. For some reason, the indicator's counting it as a fair value gap, but definitely, yeah, keep an eye on this little area here, but we're looking at the 15 minutes. Let's see for added confluences in those areas that we've identified as well. Here, not so much going on in the 15 minute. And here, yes. Because it's 0.79. Pretty crazy how confluences happen, right? Let's check this out. I'm doing this live with you guys. Crazy. Right, so these confluences, not a coincidence, right? There's a reason for this. So we're looking at the 15 minute, right? 15 minute and the 5 minutes, usually when I get into my trades, those are my my entry points. Check this out, right? The 50% mark is 15,803.81. So let's say it's at 15,804, right? Let's just round it up. My 0.79 is also 15,803.97, aka rounded up 15,804. We were looking into this area, right? Like I said, I was going to DCA into this area, and I was also going to DCA into this area up here. So this on the 15 minute, we have an additional confluence, right? That gives me even more confidence that this is going to be, it's going to be some kind of reaction, right? We're going to see some definite like volatility inside this area. We're going to see some kind of reaction towards the upside. And the fact that it's a added confidence of the 15-minute overlapping exactly with that 0.79, oh, just gives me so much confidence. So definitely this is an area of interest. Let's mark that. Oh, we already have it marked, right? We already have an alert. 0.79. So definitely for some beautiful entries, looking at your 0.79 over here, which is 15.80397. We're rounding it up to 804. And definitely look over here as well. 1822. 15.822. We're looking at those two areas right there. Watch, observe, and then if you feel comfortable, throw in your limit orders. Right? Wasn't expecting to see that on the 15-minute, but definitely a damn good confluence there for sure. Alrighty. Alright guys, we've identified on the daily, we've identified a fair value gap on the daily. That's going to be our point of interest. We've identified a point of interest on the 4 hour. We've also identified a point of interest on the 1 hour for NAS. Does anyone have any questions in regard to NAS? Do we feel comfortable with this? Do I have too many indicators and markings on my charts? Let me get a thumbs up in the chat. And if you guys have no questions, let me know. We'll move on to the next pair. We can either do US 30 or gold. You guys let me know in the chat right now. We'll decide, and then we'll move on to the next pair. Can we do gold? Yes, we can. Also, shout out to Sharky. Thank you for joining the chat, Sharky. Thank you for being on the live. I really appreciate it, brother. I've been keeping up with all your live tradings and your charts, bro. Killing it, man. Killing it. Moving on to gold. Love gold. Love, 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 love gold. Right, looks like we're doing a double top right over here. Taking into some buy side liquidity. We're looking on the daily right now. We are still bullish, right? We had a nice little pullback over here on Friday, October 23rd. Nice little pullback, tapped into some zones over here. We still have active a couple points of interest that we've identified. Fair value gap over here on the daily at 1985. We also have a fair value gap over here. This one has actually been mitigated, right? This one was tapped into Monday the 20th. Only thing is, like, that was a violent wick, right? But we did identify that on the previous live. We identified this little point of interest over here, this fair value gap. It tapped into it right after. It's crazy. Crazy violent. But if you're doing proper risk management when it comes to these entries, right? We would have done entry at the 50% mark. Stop loss being underneath the candle. Then you target 2 to 1. So in theory, we still have a little bit more room to go. Still have a little bit more room to go, right? So let's identify this over here, just in case it comes right back down. This is the closest fair value gap that we have. It's on the daily. We got to zoom in a little bit because it's a pretty tight fair value gap over here. Beginning of the fair value gap, you're looking at 1986.92. Bottom of the fair value gap, you're looking at 1985.17. Middle point, we're looking at about 1986 flat. We do Alt H, identify, and also label. Daily fair value gap 50% mark over here. Coordinates, let's modify it to 86 flat. So 1986 flat. Keep that level like that. This is going to be the area we're going to be looking at closest to us. This candle over here as well, you see it's actually bearish. Once this one closes, then we have a fair value gap over here that's going to be active as well. We can start marking it out now, and we're going to monitor it, see how that develops over the day. We have 21 hours left in for this daily candle to close, but I want to mark out this fair value gap for now to see if we have any additional confluences in the lower time frames. Let's lock that. Let's mark this 50% mark over here as well. Alt H, you're looking at 1999.56. Very important key level over here. Let's round it up to 2000 flat. Now, let's go back down. That makes a pretty big difference. Let's keep it there. 1999.54, so basically 1999.50. We're going to keep an eye on there. We've identified this level over here. And then we've identified this fair value gap over here as well. Let's label this one. And daily fair value gap 50%. This one has not been confirmed yet. This candle is still developing. It has 21 hours to develop. That's why we're going to go down into a lower time frame. Let's see if maybe this is already developed as a 4-hour fair value gap or a 1-hour fair value gap. And then we're going to focus on that to see if there's any additional confluences as well. Closest fair value gaps that we're looking into right now are these two. The one in the 1999.54 area and then the one in the 1986 area. We identified this one as well from the previous week's live. Daily and the 4-hour fair value gap 50% over here overlap together beautifully. This area is 1952.43. Right? And then you have an incredible weekly fair value gap over here at 1942.87. Keep those alerts active. This is going to be a very important zone over here on the weekly. So it can violently reject upwards, or if it breaks through, then we can see some violent movement downwards for some beautiful shorts. Let's zoom in over here at this developing candle on the 4-hour. Let's see if we have any additional confluences. Over here we do not, but we do have one over here that's already developed and formed on Friday. Let's mark this bad boy out. Good thing with this one, since it's so close, we can probably see this one develop during London session. If it actually does form a nice little retracement for us, this could be a beautiful point of entry for us. Breaker structure over here. Tap into this fair value gap. Did not close below it. Beautiful confluence for bullish position. Insane bearish engulfing candle over here. But gold is just not letting down. Gold just wants to keep going higher and higher. So let's focus now on bullish entries. Coordinates for this top of the bar is 1997.17. Bottom of the bar is 1996.31. Our 50% mark, we're looking into this at 1996.76. We're going to label that as well. It's a 4-hour fair value gap 50%. This looks pretty good, right? You see it actually bounce off this area here, close below this area, and now it looks like we flipped over back to the top of this area. So resistance from support to resistance back to support. Looks like a pretty good area, right? Keep an eye on this one. Put an alert for this as well. This looks like a really beautiful area for us. And now let's go down to this other bad boy over here, the daily fair value gap. Do you see anything in the 4-hour? I do not. I do see this one over here. This actually would have been the fair value gap from this point to this point. Our 50% mark. Let's see if it's actually been mitigated. Yeah, it's been mitigated perfectly right over here on Tuesday. So let's skip that one. Damn, that's crazy. That was perfectly mitigated. 1 hour for confluences. What do we see? Nothing for confluence in the 1 hour over here on the first one. We do have a fair rally gap over here on the 1 hour. Let's identify this one. Let's keep an eye on it. This is a market structure shift right over here. So these two fair value gaps are pretty good. Let's keep an eye. This is a daily gap, fair value gap 50% mark over here. So in theory, it should tap into here on the daily, wick back up, go up, but it could tap in all the way down to this 1 hour, 50%, get liquidity, and continue on the daily. We're going to label these two over here. These are going to be very important for us as well. We're also going to throw some fibs on it and see what's up. Check out these beautiful fair value gaps. Top of this one is 1984.03, bottom 1981.61. This one is 1980.81, bottom of it is 1978.12. 50% marks, we're going to mark them out and we're going to label. Alt H gets you a nice beautiful line. These are 1 hour. 1 hour fair value gap 50%. One hour fair value gap 50%. Beautiful. Let's throw a fib. Let's see what's up. To my breaker structure and pull back. So we got the 6.2, the 7.05, and the 7.9 overlapping over here on top of these two fair value gaps. Looks like my highest quality one is going to be my 7.05 and then my 7.9. So those are the two that I'm going to be more focused in on. And rejections and also entries. This could be a nice little entry, but I'd rather stick with my confluences for stronger trades, right? We're looking for higher probability trades. So 7.05 and the 7.9, those are the ones I'm looking for as my points of entry for the 1 hour. Let's check out the 15-minute to see if there's another additional confluence for those fair value gaps. If not, it's cool, but let's just check it out just in case. So I have this over here. Beautiful 15-minute fair value gap over there. Inside here, so this area here giving me a lot of the confluence, a lot of confidence. Let's check this out. Look at this 0.62. Wasn't expecting this at all. Almost to the pip. The 50% mark and the 0.62. That's why it's always cool to draw these fibs. You get these nice little confluences. This is sick. That gives me a lot of confidence right there. You could probably scalp that. But like I said, my preferred entries right now is the 7.05 and the 7.9. Those are the ones I'm looking for my preferred entries. This one doesn't have anything lower time frame for fair value gap. This one does, close to it, right above it. Might not even actually get down to here. Might actually just be these two. But I'm going to focus on these two. If you're a scalper, probably just focus on the first and second one. But it is what it is, right? Whatever your strategy is, we've identified these levels over here. Pretty nice little confluences between the 4 different time frames that we use. Daily, 4 hour, 1 hour, 15-minute. Beautiful confluences. We've identified daily fair value gap, points of interest. We've identified the 4 hour points of interest. We've identified the 1 hour points of interest. And we've also identified the 15-minute point of interest overlapping our fair value gaps on the higher time frames. Does anyone have any questions in regards to gold at the moment? If you do not have any questions, give me some thumbs up. We'll move on to the next pair. Next pair that we're going to be looking at is going to be US30. Nice. 1 thumbs up, 2 thumbs up. Let me get a 3rd thumbs up, and then we're moving on to US30. Hey yo, let's go. Moving on to US30. This is a pair that I need to start trading more often because it's so beautiful and it moved so violently that I want to catch that wave. Ooh, if you can mute your mic, please. Right, so we had a daily fair value gap over here. We were expecting it to go bearish, but it broke right through. One thing that I have been observing as well, right? If something blasts through it, then that area right there becomes reversed. So instead of being an area of resistance, it's not going to be an area of support. That's what I'm going to be looking at the area as an area of support. So now we have two different fair value gaps overlapping each other. We have this one that's been mitigated, and now this area is going to be like a nice little demand zone for us. We have this fair value gap over here that was developed after that. We're going to mark that out. We're looking on the daily US 30. Coordinates for the top is 34817.31, bottom 34415.78. We're looking at this on the daily. Let's mark out this daily fair value gap 50%. Alt H over there, daily fair value gap 50%. And we also have a nice tight fair value gap over here. This is the closest one, so we might actually tap into this during the London session. Top of this is 35235.91, bottom 35191.39. You guys can check that out. Alt H, we're going to do the 50% mark right now. I'm going to set an alert on this one because it's going to be really close. Most likely we're going to see this play out throughout the London session tonight. Let me look left. See any additional confluences? Let's see Wick City over here. Not really. I'm not really confident in anything over here. But there's an order block over here. That's about it. Mark that out. That could actually be very important for us. Let's identify this order block. Color in red. Reason this is an order block, it's the last bullish candle before this retracement. And it is an indecision candle as well. So this area over here is going to be our extreme premium area. We're going to be looking for shorts in this area. We also have a point of interest over here that's drawn out by EZAlgo, EZSMC. We should definitely see some kind of reaction here in this area. And then rejection. We're going to send an alert for this area right here, which is going to be the starting point of the order block. That area is 35486.30. I should tap into that and then just reject. In theory, right? At the end of the day, the market's going to do whatever the fuck it wants, but in theory, you should tap into that and reject. We're looking at the daily, right? So we identified that daily fair value gap, and we've identified the second daily fair value gap. Let's go check it out in the 4 hour. 4 hour, this fair value gap has been mitigated. And then this daily fair value gap pretty much overlaps with the 4 hour. So that's an additional confluence for us as well. So we're looking at these two together, daily and the 4 hour fair value gap over here. A point of interest here is sell side liquidity. Should blast right through that. This has been mitigated. And then this has not been mitigated yet. Let's identify this one as well. This one was formed Friday. Could be a very important level for us. We're going to color this blue because we are looking for bullish positions. Top of the bar is 34179.56. The bottom of it is 34058.63. Alt H on the 50% mark, and we're looking at 34119.71. We're going to label this beautiful 4 hour fair value gap 50%. Go down to 1 hour. Check our confluences for the points of interest that we marked. We do have an additional over here, 1 hour fair value gap. We're gonna mark this as well. It's not exactly overlapping the 50% mark and then this 50% mark, but it's pretty fairly close. Tiny fair value gap over here. I wouldn't really count it. This one's been mitigated. Then you have over here daily 4 hour, 1 hour overlapping. The 1 hour 50% mark is not exactly over this one, but they are overlapping fair value gaps. You have an additional fair value gap over here, an additional one over here. This one's going to be really important because you have an order block right here as well. And if you have EZAlgo SMC, Easy SMC, you're going to see we have a 25% rating on this one. So if you're a scalper, we're going to be looking in this area over here. Let's identify this area for you scalpers out there. $34,985.82, bottom $34,947.95. And you're looking at a 1 hour. Fair value got 50%. With a nice little order block underneath it. Honestly, if this starts going down, breaks through this daily, I don't have much hope for this 1 hour holding up. So play it as you want. I wouldn't look at this as more than a scalp. I would not swing from this as well. But I'll definitely identify that point of interest for you guys so you can keep an eye on it, especially if you're going to scalp that entry. Here's another fair value gap over here. But this fair value gap pretty much overlaps the daily 4 hour and 1 hour. So we're actually looking at this area as a whole, right over here at this 50% mark. So we're not going to label this one separately. We're going to focus right here at the 50% of the daily, because more than likely than not, it's going to blast through that 1 hour to get to that daily 50% liquidity. And then I'm not going to go into lower time frames. We're going to focus on those three time frames, and we're going to use those as points of interest. Whatever your strategy is, make sure you're following it. If it's profitable, awesome. If you do not have a profitable strategy, we do have beautiful strategies here inside EZAlgo, part of your membership. I'm going to definitely send a link right now into the chat for the strategy channel and check those out. But the goal of it is, right, the goal of these lives on Sundays is for us to identify points of interest in which we're going to get a high quality trade. Focus on these points of interest that we're marking out together, and you will definitely see some great reactions to it. Play it out with the proper entrance. Make sure you're watching it on the 5-minute, 15-minute time frames for your entries, and make sure you're within the points of interest in order to have a higher probability trade. Now we are done with US30. We just went over daily, we went over 4 hour, we went over 1 hour. Does anybody have any questions for me on the US30 before we move on to the next pair? Next pair is going to be Euro USD. I just started getting into USD. What I've noticed with Euro USD as well is that it pretty much mimics how NAS moves. So if NAS is bullish and it's causing all these beautiful structures to form, Euro USD usually follows that with a lot less chop, a lot less wicks, and it looks like exactly the same on the charts as well, with a slight delay to it, which is beautiful. So that way you guys can pretty much follow the NAS movement with using Euro USD. No, I do not actually. Why does Euro USD follow NAS so perfectly well? They're identical.
Okay. Because one side was Bitcoin going down, going up. Because the other side of the equation is USD.
Yeah.
It will be strong, so it will go up.
Exactly. So I mean, in theory, like the correlation between yeah, exactly. By the way, guys, this is Fahad. If you haven't met him, he's an OG here in EZAlgo as well. Fahad, this is going live on my YouTube, so thank you for being featured on here as well. Definitely gonna get you as one of my first interviews. Yeah, but yeah, wait. But yeah, man, when it comes to Nas, I mean, I have noticed that correlation with it. Sometimes you do get like juked out by the market. The market like tends to, you know, liquidate you guys and just like screw you over. But in theory, right, like how Nas is supposed to react, it's kind of like the same way that gold reacts, but the charts don't match, which is wild, right? So Nas, if DXY, which is the US dollar, goes up, Nas goes down. And then the reverse as well. If DXY, the US dollar, goes down, then Nas goes up. But gold doesn't do the same thing as Nas, right? Some weeks you have completely different charts on gold and Nas, even though they're supposed to do the exact same correlation with the US dollar. Now, when I'm comparing the charts and I overlap Euro USD and I overlap with the Nas, yes, the correlations are there because of the US dollar, but they're identical. The charts are identical. Even though you have other pairs that have the same correlation with dollar goes down, they go up. Dollar goes up, they go down. They don't have the same charts. But like Fahad is saying, like the correlation with the Euro USD and the way that the DXY, which is the US dollar, goes up and down, I've noticed that it's pretty much copy paste Nas, but without the volatility. So when it's like a high volatility news, like a red folder news event, you'll get the wicks on Nas, but Euro USD, you'll get a whole candle. You're not gonna get crazy wicks one way, crazy wick another way, and then the candle forms. No, you get a regular candle, which is awesome. It's great also if you're a news trader. I don't ever recommend trading news because that's usually when the banks move all this money to liquidate all these positions and pretty much knock you out of a position. But if you somehow have a strategy that's profitable and you're a news trader, look into that. Look into like Euro USD pair. Look into like the Forex pairs. Don't look into the indices because those are the ones that are going to give you these gigantic wicks and liquidate both sides of the equation. Liquidate all the longs and liquidate all the shorts and then continue the movement. But definitely look into that. Euro USD, it's going to be my new bread and butter. Mark my words, guys, because this is my beautiful Nas without all the volatility, but the same volatility, if you get what I mean, right? So looking into this right now, we're looking into the daily charts. I have a daily 50% fair value gap over here. Oh, I tapped into it too, man. Right? So if you were part of the live last week, we identified this area over here, this daily fair value gap 50% mark. We're looking at 1.09634. That's what we identified last week, and we identified as an area in which we were going to see a reaction, and we did. Look at that. How beautiful, right? Reacted right over there. We also have some fibs here. I'm going to remove these fibs so I don't confuse you guys. But we did have a news event over here as well on Wednesday, and if you would have done your stop loss right below this body or right below this candle, you would have still been in this trade over here. Entry point was going to be over here, which is the 4-hour 50% mark, fair value gap. We tapped into that, and look at those beautiful candles, right? We are on the daily, so those beautiful candles closed right above the fair value gap 50%, pretty much letting us know like, hey, we're still bullish, we're still confirmed on an uptrend. So this is still good. But we're going to remove this from our charts. This has already been mitigated, tapped into, but just so you can see, last week we looked into this and it played out perfectly just like we wanted it to. Market doesn't do it 100% of the times, but when it does, amazing, right? Amazing. And we're making money. Now we're looking over here as well. 1 hour, 15-minute fair value gap, 50% mark. It broke right through it, and then it went straight for the 4-hour, and that's fine. We're going to look at this on the lower time frames. I want you guys to check this out. This area is still valid. This daily 50% fair value gap at 1.07690. Make sure you still have an alert on here. I have my alert set. Make sure you set yours as well. This is a daily fair value gap 50% mark. This is the only one that we have on the daily nearby and worth watching. We also have this one over here right above an order block. EZSMC is telling me we have a 48.8% chance, 48.8, yeah, percent chance of this rejecting from this order block. So the fact that it's a daily fair value gap, the fact that we're bullish right now on the daily, and the fact that it's sitting above a 48% order block on EZSMC, that gives me confidence. We're going to identify this right now. We're going to select over here. right? This area here for your coordinates, you're looking at 1.06142. Bottom of this is 1.05797. 50% mark is right over here. We're gonna label, identify, and also give you the coordinates, right? This is daily fair value gap 50%. Coordinate for this is 1.05977. Keep an eye on this area, and then we might actually see another beautiful confluence right over here at 1.05803. right? You can probably set an alert on that one too. I would. So we're gonna set that alert. Reason we're doing that is because that's the overlap, that's the ending of the fair value gap, and that's the beginning of the order block. Usually it taps into the top of the order block and then continuation and whatever the position it is. We're looking for bullish movement. That's all we have to identify for the daily. That's nearby. Let's go down into lower time frames. We'll not actually blast through this. Kind of scary, but we'll see. It tapped into the daily. Look how beautiful that was. Right, that we're looking right now on the 4 hour. Let me take out these order blocks. We're trading inside this order block over here. This order block has a 36.44% chance of rejecting. We have a 4 hour fair value gap right over here that it's eating up. In 1 hour, it's going to close below the fair value gap. We're going to check this out. I mean, this has already been mitigated because it broke right through. If it's on the 1 hour, it's closed inside there already, then this has been mitigated. It's worth this fair value gap. And now we're looking over here. We mark these fibs out as a point of interest for us to enter. And then we would have done on the daily, which is right underneath over here. Let's remove these fibs. I don't want you guys to get confused. Have another order block here. Low probability. We're going to ignore that. This has already been mitigated. We're going to remove this so you guys don't get confused either. This fair value gap has been mitigated. And then this 4 hour has been mitigated as well. I just left it there so we can check it out to see what it looks like on the lower time frames. Mitigated, mitigated. We're looking at 4 hour. Daily fair value gap over here. And then we also have this fair value gap that pretty much extends throughout all this. But we're gonna focus on this area here. So the fact that this 4 hour fair value gap takes up this whole chunk within this daily, let's make sure we write that into here, that it overlaps, right? So it's a daily and a 4 hour fair value gap, 50% mark over there. We also have one over here, which is the ending of the daily fair value gap. But we're going to focus on this one. This is where we have most of our confluences. Let's check it out on the 1 hour. See what's up over here. This previous candle over here closed inside this fair value gap. No wicks. This is heading on the way down. This has been mitigated. This has not been mitigated to 50%. By like a few pips, it has not. But we're not going to consider this one as a valid. All these have been mitigated. And then this one over here, sitting above an order block. Let's identify this one on the 1 hour. We might see a nice little potential for this to bounce off this order block and this fair value gap. Probably collect a little bit more liquidity over here from whatever structure forms or whatever structure is left over from this dumping. And then it'll continue movement downwards to this area over here. So let's identify this over here. Since we're doing a 1 hour, we're going to focus this on like a smaller, lower time frame scalps. I'm not going to really look into this as holding the structure from it breaking through. But we're definitely going to consider this for scalping. Area identified is 1.08778 and the bottom is 1.08723. 50% mark, which is right over here, 1.08778. 754. We're gonna label this as well. 1 hour fair value gap 50%. That's gonna be a nice little scalping area. Tap into it, retracement, and then continuation violently, because this order block and this fair value gap is pretty much all that's remaining between this and the daily and 4 hour fair value gap 50%. You also have this one over here in the 1 hour, but we're pretty much going to be watching over here, because even if it does tap into this, it's just going to retrace a little bit and then continue down. Does anybody have any questions for me when it comes to Euro USD? We identified 2 different daily fair value gaps. We've also identified 4 hour